I studied money professionally for over 10 years. First, economics faculty, then work in investment consulting, and now this channel. And throughout all that time, I noticed one thing that still surprises me. People who actually have money, real money, not a credit iPhone and a leased car, behave completely differently than you think. They don't look rich. They don't talk like rich people. And they certainly don't spend like rich people in the movies. But there's something else. They think differently. And that way of thinking, not salary, not luck, not inheritance, is the reason why they have what most people don't. Today, I will break down 7 signs that a person is truly financially stable. Not flashy rich, but truly stable. And most importantly, each of these signs is not a character trait you are born with. It's a skill that can be developed right now without any starting capital. Stay until the end. Most people have never heard the last point, and that's the one that changes everything. Part 1. They never say, "I can't afford it." This sounds strange. Wait a second. I'm not saying that wealthy people spend money on everything. Not at all. I'm talking about something else. How they phrase a refusal. An ordinary person says, "I can't afford it." A financially literate person says, "That's not my priority right now." This is not a play on words. This is a fundamentally different way of seeing reality. When you say, "I can't," you remove responsibility from yourself. Money controls you. When you say, "Not my priority," you acknowledge that the money is there, but you are consciously choosing where it goes. I have observed this again and again. People with 7-figure assets calmly say, "No, that's not what I want to spend my money on right now," without apologies, without explanations, without shame. And here's what matters. This shift in language changes not only how others perceive you, it changes how you yourself perceive your finances. What to do right now? Catch yourself the next time you want to say, "I can't afford it." Replace it with, "I choose not to spend money on this." If that feels untrue, that is a signal that your spending does not align with your values. That is important information. Second, start keeping a list of priorities rather than a budget. A budget sounds like a prison. Priorities sound like a strategy. Part 2. They get rich boringly, and they are proud of it. You know what most financially stable people I personally know have in common? They are incredibly bored telling you about how they manage their money, because it works precisely because it is boring. But that is exactly what builds real wealth. There is a term in behavioral economics, financial theater. This is when people spend money in a way that makes the spending process look significant. A new car every 3 years. Updating your wardrobe after every raise. Restaurants worth visiting because everyone is talking about them. Financially stable people participate in a different show, an exclusive one, where the applause comes 10 years later, when an amount appears in the account that buys you freedom. Well-being research shows again and again, material purchases give a short burst of pleasure and then disappear. Purchases that save time, reduce stress, or give you control over your life provide long-term satisfaction. What to do right now? Conduct an audit of the last 3 months. Split your expenses into 2 columns. Looks good and works for me. The ratio will tell you a lot about where you are headed. Part 3. They don't fight temptations. They remove them from the path. Here's the myth that has ruined the finances of many smart people. To manage money well, you need iron willpower. This is not true. Wealthy people are not more disciplined than you. They have simply structured their lives so that the right decision becomes automatic, while the wrong one requires effort. This is called choice architecture, and it is perhaps the most underrated financial tool of all. A concrete example. Instead of deciding every month to set money aside, they set up an automatic transfer on payday. The money is gone before the brain has time to figure out where to spend it. No willpower is needed. The system does everything itself. Another example. They deliberately make access to money in their investment accounts more difficult. Not because they don't trust themselves, but because they know that in a moment of panic or temptation, 3 extra clicks and a day's wait can save years of work. James Clear in Atomic Habits describes this perfectly. If you want to change behavior, change the environment, not yourself. What to do right now? Set up 1 automatic transfer, even $50, even $500, on payday to a separate account or index fund. Give this account a boring name. Not Dream, but Investments. It works better. Second, remove from your phone the Amazon, Target, or any other marketplace apps where you spend impulsively. Make them inconvenient, and you will spend less there without a single act of willpower. Part 4. They know the difference between price and cost. Price is what's written on the tag. Cost is how much something actually takes from your life. Most people think only about the price. Financially successful people think about the cost. Here's an example. Cheap headphones for $15. They break after 6 months. You buy them again and again. Over 3 years, 5 pairs. Total, $75, plus 5 times spent choosing and buying. One pair of decent headphones for $60 would have lasted the entire time without a single thought about them. This is the principle known in the business world as total cost of ownership, and it applies literally to everything: clothing, tools, services, and even relationships with people who make your life better. Wealthy people are willing to pay more for things they don't want to think about again. They buy once, and they buy right. The opposite is also true. They don't overpay for status, for a logo, for packaging, for what everyone is buying, because that's price without cost. What to do right now? Before your next purchase, ask yourself 2 questions. First, how many times will I have to buy this again? Second, how much attention will this require from me? If the answers are unpleasant, it's quite possible that the cheap option will turn out to be the most expensive. Part 5. They invest in boredom and stay away from gambling. Here's the paradox I observe all the time. People who actively trade stocks, check the crypto market every day, and chase hot tips on Reddit ultimately lose in the long run to those who simply add money to an index fund once a month and then stop looking at it. This is not an opinion. It is a well-documented fact from dozens of academic studies. A Fidelity study once showed that their most successful clients were those who had either forgotten about their accounts or had passed away, literally. Why? Because gambling is expensive. Every trade means taxes, commissions, and decisions made under the influence of emotions. And emotions and money are a terrible combination. Wealthy people are not bothered by boredom. They understand that boredom is a signal that the system is working. If everything in your financial plan is calm and nothing is happening, chances are you're doing everything right. Gambling is for entertainment. Investing is for the future. Separate these 2 worlds. If you feel like playing the market, set aside a small amount that you can afford to lose completely. Say, $200 to $500. This is your fun budget. Let everything else grow boringly in index funds. What to do right now? Check how many times in the past 6 months you have changed the composition of your investments or switched between instruments. Every switch is potentially lost money. The fewer movements, the better. Part 6. They build assets, not a collection of expenses. There are 2 types of things on which money is spent: those that give you money back and those that simply disappear. An asset is something that works for you. Rental real estate, a skill that gets you paid more, a business that generates income without your constant involvement, or an index portfolio that grows over time. An expense is everything else. Most Americans build a collection of nice-looking expenses: a car on a 72-month loan, Netflix subscriptions they barely use, and so on, endlessly. Each one individually seems reasonable. Taken together, it becomes a pipe through which any income leaks out, no matter how large it is. Wealthy people ask a different question before every major purchase. Not, can I afford this? But, is this an asset or an expense? And if it's an expense, is it worth what I could have gained if this money was working for me? This doesn't mean giving up everything. It means being honest with yourself about the true nature of every spending decision. What to do right now? Make a list of everything on which you spend significant amounts of money. If your list of expenses is longer than your list of assets, that's your area for growth. Part 7. They have stopped proving anything to anyone. This is the final point, and I deliberately saved it for last, because everything else in this list consists of skills and techniques. They can be learned, copied, and implemented. But this one is different. It's the result of inner work that cannot be faked. Truly financially free people have stopped proving anything to anyone. Not to themselves, not to their neighbors, not to their Instagram followers, not to their former classmates. They don't buy a Tesla so someone will whistle in the parking lot. They don't post photos from a 5-star hotel in the Maldives to get likes. They don't talk about their promotion just to feel important. And this is not because they are cold or closed off people. It's because their self-worth no longer depends on other people's opinions of their wallet. This matters financially, literally. Because every time you spend money to impress others, you are paying a stranger for a fleeting impression that they will forget in 5 minutes. Morgan Housel in The Psychology of Money describes this perfectly. Wealth is what you don't see. It's the car you didn't buy, the vacation you didn't take for the sake of status, the money that quietly works behind the scenes. The freest people I know don't look rich, but they can say no to anything they don't like. They can quit a job that is destroying them. They can take a risk on a project that truly matters to them. Their freedom isn't in the bank balance. It's in the options that balance gives them. What to do right now? Ask yourself an honest question. What am I currently spending money on? that I would immediately stop buying if no one could see it? The answer to this question is your map to real financial freedom. None of these points require money to start. Every single one is a decision you can make today. If this video was useful, share it with someone who is currently thinking about money. Maybe this is exactly the conversation they need right now. Subscribe so you don't miss new videos.